Hey Chad, how you doing? Good afternoon.
There's Glenn. How's everything going?
We are well. 3 o'clock and glad to be here.
Yep,
How's
yep.
everybody doing?
Looks like we got a real good crowd.
Carl, I see you out there. I hadn't seen you in a while. How have you been?
I'm doing good. I'm
Good to see
glad to
you.
see you. Glad to be
Yeah,
back.
you as well. Well, good to see you. Bruce, Captain America, he's that all the time.
You know, my middle name was almost Wayne. I was almost Batman.
Yeah. Well, you're a superhero to a lot of people for sure. No doubt. You grew into it.
Well, thanks for that.
Yeah, true. Well, it's good to see. I know Chad was talking about getting this together. My first comment, it'd be good to get the band back together. It's been a while since we've seen each other, and I'm looking forward to having the comments today. Now, you about ready to fire this thing off?
Yeah, I think we're good to go. Why don't, if you have any welcoming comments, I don't think that Bob is going to join us. He joined us yesterday. I think he is in, where was he? Maui.
Seabrook,
so I don't think that our co-chair, Bob Bradshaw from, was it Seabrook?
Yeah, that was the view we saw in the background.
I think we'll have to go without him. Yeah. But I think we're good to go.
Okay, I'll just say a few. Introduction. I just, by the way, past chair of the Alliance, and we've been involved in this. I'm a former mayor of Seabrook. I see some of our Seabrook folks on the call. Our big push several years ago was on 146 through Seabrook, making that connection to 225, facilitating the region's growth. In conjunction with that, we've formed this committee to take on some tough subjects like heavy haul. We're able to kind of get that through, and that was a touchy situation. And now you're seeing this thing start to shift and develop out as a East End planning group. And so to have each of you here to understand the importance of this region, I know you all know the dollar value that comes in and out of here and how quickly we need to move these goods. And being a municipal guy, I was always trying to protect the commuter traffic. You know, we got to protect the mom and pops as well. So this is what this committee is about. And I will turn over to Chad, but I appreciate every one of you and everything you do for our region and coming together here. So thank you all very much.
Well, thank you, Glenn. No, thank you, Glenn. I really appreciate it. Appreciate your leadership dating back to your first term as mayor. And Glenn's been a real champion for the region on the transportation side, and over the years has become a pretty much one of our experts. So we really appreciate him. With that, let's move let's move down the agenda as quickly as we can, because we've got a lot of really good information to kind of get out today and hear updates on. First, I think I saw Patrick Gant. Did I see Patrick?
Yes, Chad, I'm here.
There he is. Yeah.
Hey,
so I think we'll start off with TxDOT. Yeah. And just let you kind of talk us through just a few of the studies, the Pell study, maybe an update on I-10 and the ship channel, the San Jacinto Bridge.
Yeah, I'd be happy to, Chad. And with us on the line, we have my boss, James Koch, the Director of Transportation Planning and Development for Houston District.
Hey, Patrick, if I could real quick, Eliza would have liked to join us today, but with this weather event coming this weekend, she's on an EOC call with all the staff. So she'll get us next time, though. Go ahead, Patrick.
Great. So let me go ahead and share my screen. Let's see. Can everyone see the PowerPoint?
Yes.
That looks good, Patrick.
Okay, great. So I'll go ahead and start off by going through the list of projects that we've worked together with this group in the past about. Just kind of give a bit of an update on those particular projects. The first one is 146 at Barber's Cut. We've worked very closely with Bruce and his team at the port and the city of LaPorte to advance this project. It is under construction right now, It involves the modifications to the intersection at Barber's Cut and 146 to add dual right turns coming away from Barber's Cut and going northbound onto 146. It also involves some additional modifications to some of the turning movements southbound to eastbound going into the port as well. Project should be completed early summer or late spring of this year, 2021. We did run into an issue with Centerpoint where we had to coordinate with them very closely on getting some power out to those signal poles that we're looking to install. But we do hope to have that resolved here fairly shortly. And once that happens, the construction team will be moving very quickly to go ahead and put the intersection into its final configuration. The next projects that we have on the list here is 146. And I think this is the one that you were referring to, Glenn. I always want to call you Mayor Royal, but this is the section of 146 heading north from Seabrook and going towards LaPorte itself, Spencer Highway to be exact. This is widening 146 to a 6-lane facility, 3 lanes in each direction, and basically turning it into the full freeway section that's envisioned for that corridor. So final design is underway and we're making very good progress on that. We are anticipating a letting sometime in the summer of 2021. At this point in time, we feel pretty comfortable making that happen. There's some lingering issues with railroad coordination and some of the other design coordination that we're tackling, but we think that we can overcome those and make August letting for that project. So that will kind of dovetail on the work that's ongoing in Seabrook and Kemah along 146. Okay, moving down the list here is really and truly the Pell studies, and I'll go ahead and talk about that in the heart of our presentation this afternoon. So that's item number 3 and a few other items further down the list. Item number 11 here is the 225 at Beltway 8 interchange. This is a project that TxDOT and HECTRA are working very closely on. The concept as it stands today is for HECTRA to design and construct this particular interchange. HECTRA conducted a origin destination analysis and some other traffic analysis, and they've identified that there's an immediate need for 5 direct connectors at this interchange. And so they're working to advance the schematic design at this point in time, and then go right on into final design to allow for that interchange construction to coincide with the work that they're doing at the Ship Channel Bridge. Number 12 here is the portion of 146 that goes through Baytown. And if you're familiar with it, there's that area around Ferry Road where there's a missing overpass. TxDOT is doing the early PS&E work, the final design work for that section of 146. But I will have to say that it's not funded for construction at this point in time. We will continue to work with our regional partners and in other ways to try to find avenues to fund that particular project. Number 15 is again the Pell. We can talk about that in just a few moments here. 16 is the I-69 bypass study. We may have mentioned this in the past, but what we did is we partnered with a contractor to look at the travel demands coming in and out of the region as a whole. I think the concept from Judge Emmett going back several years was to try to understand if there was a need or a demand for an I-69 bypass to allow traffic that was coming from, let's say, Wharton, and head directly on over towards the port. So our contractor team, they went out and they put in tube counters and other counting methods all around the entire region, almost as if as a bit of a gateway. So any kind of traffic that came through the region, it picked it up, and we were able to determine where that particular truck or car or what have you went. At the end of that analysis, what they found was that, really and truly, the Houston region is the destination. Any type of traffic that's coming from, certainly the Wharton area or points south, even towards Mexico from the 59 corridor, it was virtually all just coming to Houston. And once it arrived in Houston, perhaps it gets offloaded to, other trucks or other types of facilities, warehouses, let's say. But I think the general outcome of this high level origin destination study was that the Houston region seems to consume the vast majority of the commodities that are coming towards it. And this is maybe something that Bruce can touch on as well. But the other aspect of this is that the ports, Port Houston and the other ports in the region, the vast amount of tonnage is really related to the petrochemical industry, and it's not necessarily the commodities. But any commodities that were coming in, the Houston region is mostly consuming it, and not much is leaving the generalized region. So that's where that particular study left off. Anytime you do studies like this, it tends to create more studies. So one of the things that we'll be looking at moving forward is, within the region, what were the hot spots, let's say, of where freight was coming into the region and being offloaded. And then from, a particular point, are there, other areas within the region where that particular freight happened to go to next? And if there's any improvements that we can make on the system to better allow for that freight to distribute all across the region. Okay, moving down the list here, most of the other projects are dealing with the Pell studies. And again, we'll get to that in a moment. Item number 22 is the missing ramp there along I-10 and the Spur 330. That project just let for construction last fall. We're very early on, but expect to see road work moving forward on that much needed project in the coming future. So with that, let me pause. If anyone had any questions about this project listing of TxDOT projects that are important to the port region. Okay. Well, with that,
Patrick.
Sure.
Sorry, I was going to say I didn't hear you touch on it. Maybe you're about to. The I-10 Pell and/or the I-10 San Jacinto River Bridge. Did you want to touch on that, or are you about to?
Absolutely, Chad. I was about to get to it in the Pell discussion.
Sorry. No, just I'm jumping ahead there. Go ahead.
Right. So let's touch on it. The I-10 East Pell study, and Pell stands for Planning and Environmental Linkages Studies. Pell studies are high-level planning studies that are used by TxDOT to identify issues within corridors and try to set a vision for future improvements along that specific corridor. Very, very useful. The idea behind Pell is to do upfront planning work in such a way that that planning effort can be used within the environmental process. I know that we've discussed previous times, but the environmental process can be very cumbersome. A number of meetings can be held during the lifetime of a project. You know, when we developed the 146 project through Seabrook and Kema, that too went through kind of a similar planning level process. And then we had to turn around and do an environmental process after all that. So what the Pell is designed to do is to be able to continue those planning efforts kind of all the way through the environmental and kind of merge the two. That's what the L stands for, is it's a linkage between planning and environmental. So it's a valuable tool that we're deploying across the Houston district. We've started on a number of these Pell studies, and I'll touch on this I-10 East Pell. So I-10 East Pell has a study limit from roughly the downtown Houston area there at I-69. And it, excuse me, goes all the way out to SH-99 there in Chambers County. Pretty long study area. So we're touching on a number of different cities and issues all up and down this corridor. The way Pell studies are rolled out, they're generally divided into a phase 1 portion and then a phase 2 portion. The phase 1 portion of the study is designed to identify all different types of existing and projected data within the corridor. And then once we have a good understanding and baseline for what the needs are for the corridor, we can then go into phase 2, where we start developing alternatives that satisfy those needs and those challenges that we found in phase 1. So on the I-10 East Pell, what we've accomplished so far is we've developed a number of different traffic data, crash data, and other data, and we're at the point now where we're developing those alternatives. So I guess you could say we're kind of halfway home if you follow this roadmap graphic on the screen here. So let's talk about some of the data that we've collected so far. And just to kind of orient you with what I'm showing you here today, this graphic here on the left is showing the traffic data along the I-10 corridor with existing year 2017 and a projected year 2040 volume of traffic using the freeway. So what you can see here is that within different segments of I-10, you have a tremendous amount of traffic on the western side, closer towards downtown. So between downtown and just a little bit east of 610, you have the heaviest volumes of users utilizing that facility. And it's projected to grow to about 51% more to 234,000 vehicles per day. Those traffic volumes tend to taper away as you start to move out from the urban core, but they still remain fairly significantly high, certainly here in the center part of the corridor, virtually from just a little bit east of 610 and going off towards Spur 330. Moving over here to crashes. You know, crashes are a very critical thing that we're looking at. We want to try to improve the safety characteristics of all of our corridors. So what we're seeing here on the I-10 corridor, looking back over the last 5 years, there has been a number of crashes that have occurred. Basically, if you were to boil down the numbers, we're seeing that there's at least 4 crashes per day on this segment of I-10. There's been a number of injury accidents along the corridor as well. But just diving into more some of the granular data, what we found is that this segment between 610 and just a little bit east of the Beltway experiences the heaviest amount of crashes. And I will tell you that the Federal Road interchange in and of itself experiences the most crashes of all. And so just kind of taking a step back there, what all's going on at Federal? Federal is kind of a major corridor for trucks to be able to access the broader port region. They make their way down towards the Washburn Tunnel and access other key facilities that are so important for the region. There's a lot happening there, and there's been a lot of crashes there, specifically at Federal. So that's certainly going to be a key aspect of the things that we look at moving forward with this particular Pell. Freight. I think it's pretty obvious amongst this group, but it's good to reinforce it. Freight along the I-10 corridor is heavy. When we did that kind of broader I-69 origin destination study for the region, I mentioned that the region kind of in general does appear to consume the vast majority of the commodities that are coming in. But the one exception is really kind of the I-10 corridor. There is a significant amount of traffic that's going coast to coast from, let's say, LA Long Beach, heading across I-10 and going to destinations like Louisiana and Florida. And so if you keep that in mind, what we're finding is that the truck percentages along the I-10 corridor is somewhere around 13 to 14% of the overall volumes on a daily basis. So that is relatively high compared to other facilities around this particular region. So at the end of phase one, we've identified a set of goals. That's what's shown here in this green box. So we want to try to improve mobility. We want to try to improve freight mobility so that we can connect you with Texas. That's really what this is all about. But at the kind of the project level, we're looking at improving interchanges. I mentioned Federal before. There may be some opportunities there to explore options to increase mobility and enhance safety there at Federal, so that truck traffic can make its way from the I-10 corridor onto Federal in a safer and more reliable way. And as we get closer to the urban core, we have to point out that there are no HOV or transit facilities in this corridor as of today. And so as a part of our Pell analysis, we'll be looking at, excuse me, some of the transit opportunities that may exist along the corridor. So with these goals defined, what we'll be doing over the course of the phase two of the Pell is sticking it through this funnel. This is the generalized funnel that most projects that TxDOT works on go through. We start off with a high-level universe of alternatives that gets refined and filtered down to a set of conceptual alternatives that can then be whittled down to a set of viable or recommended alternatives that would move on to final design. Looking at next steps. So we've completed the phase one, and we're at the point now where we're generating kind of that universe of alternatives for satisfying those goals of the corridor. We do plan on holding a public meeting to show what we've done so far and get the public's input on the universe of alternatives coming up in the next couple of months. I will say that there has been a bit of a backlog in TxDOT public meetings, certainly because of the pandemic and the ramifications of dealing with the virtual environment. It's added a lot more work for TxDOT and our consultant community to prepare the materials for a virtual environment. Essentially, everything has to be put into a video form. So it's added some time and a lot of development of new systems to be able to get good feedback from the public. But at any rate, we do look forward to having additional public meetings on the Pell here shortly. And those public meetings and stakeholder meetings will continue throughout the life of this particular Pell. In terms of study completion, we're hopeful that throughout the rest of 2021, we will be able to refine those alternatives down from a universe of alternatives down closer to a set of more viable alternatives by the end of the year, so that by 2022, we should arrive at recommended alternatives to move forward with. So with that, let me pause here and take any questions about the I-10 East Pell.
Patrick, this is Scott Campbell with LyondellBasell. I was wondering how you deal with situations where I-10 creates bottlenecks in other modes of transportation, not necessarily truck freight. Specifically, we have a facility in Channelview that gets restricted by the I-10 bridges right there and near Channelview. Is that within scope, or is this, I mean, is that too far out of scope in terms of kind of the multimodal impact of freight transportation?
No, absolutely. Making sure that we have the right clearances is very important. We've identified several deficiencies along the corridor. The ones that you're mentioning, I know are at the top of the list. We want to increase vertical clearances on an interstate highway such as I-10 to something a little bit higher than what we are accustomed to in the transportation realm. Traditionally, we were going for 16.5-foot vertical clearances. And what we have determined is that we need to increase those vertical clearances to 18 plus in order to facilitate better movement of freight in major corridors such as I-10.
Okay.
And that really kind of dovetails into my next discussion is the San Jacinto River Bridge. San Jacinto River Bridge was struck by the barge in Imelda because of issues with clearances, the horizontal clearance and the vertical clearances. So as a part of this Pell process, we've identified the need to pull out the San Jacinto River Bridge project out of the Pell and accelerate that as a completely separate project. And so it's so important that I-10 be a functional interstate so that traffic can go east to west across the country and access everything that this region has to offer. So we don't want to have any limitations. And I know that there has been some additional work with the Beaumont district there in Liberty County and Chambers County on some of those overpasses. They're aware of those issues. And I want to say that there was some issues with the construction activities just in Chambers County, a little bit east of our study area. The overall goal is to make sure that the transportation infrastructure is no impediment to the movement of freight and goods.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have a timeline for the San Jacinto River Bridge or at this time?
Yeah, great question. So at this point in time, TxDOT has actually procured a consultant team to help us with the development of not only the schematic, the early preliminary design for the project, but also the final design, the PS&E. We felt like it was very important for us to combine those activities because of the very unique set of circumstances that we're dealing with at the San Jacinto River. Just to paint the picture, we're dealing with a Superfund site that the EPA is trying to clean up just immediately north of I-10. Those are the San Jacinto waste pits. We're dealing with the community and dealing with Precinct 2 of Harris County, the Crosby Lynchburg, and if you move a little bit further to the east, we have the city of Baytown. Major pipelines are crossing the San Jacinto River in very close proximity to I-10. There's major jet fuel pipelines that feed the Exxon facility. They're off of 330 that are crossing very close. So we'll need to coordinate very closely with Exxon and other pipeline companies to make sure that whatever bridge that we come up with doesn't impact them negatively. But we also need to engage the marine community to understand their needs. I've already reached out, and thank you, Chad. We've already reached out to a number of the barge operators along the San Jacinto Basin, and we've had some very good meetings on understanding what their needs are. If you're familiar with the river, there's a number of different bends and turns in the San Jacinto River right as you're getting close to I-10. In today's world, it's a bit of a challenge for the pilots to make those turns. And so if there's opportunities there to kind of straighten out the defined channel for those pilots, I think that's a win for everybody. We also want to have a good discussion about the vertical clearance. You know, right now, the vertical clearance of the San Jacinto River Bridge is only about 22, 23 foot, depending on where you're measuring to. But that's relatively shallow of a vertical clearance when you look at other major barge crossings across the state and the country, honestly. Yeah, just looking to the east, the reconstructed I-10 River Bridge there at the Trinity River is a much taller structure. So a taller structure would be able to accommodate different types of push boats and tugboats for the barges that transit the San Jacinto River. We're going to be conducting a number of different preliminary stakeholder meetings with the marine community as well as the broader community to understand what their needs and their goals will be for the San Jacinto River Bridge that can really kind of work to inform TxDOT on what the clearance envelope should be. You know, there's been a lot of discussion back and forth on the, you know, just clear spanning the entirety of the river, or is there opportunities to have columns in the river? You know, these are very important discussions that will need to be had with the key stakeholders in and around the San Jacinto River Bridge area so that we can then allow our engineer to start coming up with bridge designs that can accommodate that vertical and horizontal clearance envelope.
Thank you.
Any other questions about I-10 in general? Okay, well, I will go ahead and move on to another Pell study that TxDOT is working on. It's the 225, and we've expanded it now to the 225 and 610 East Loop Pell study. So here's a map on the screen here showing the limits of the 225, 610 East Loop Pell study. We've expanded those limits to include the Sidney Sherman Bridge along 610 so that we can understand what the long-term needs of that particular area are. You know, do we need to be looking at raising the clearance of the Sidney Sherman Bridge? Do we need to be looking at special accommodations on that bridge to handle the freight traffic going towards I-10 and 225, so on and so forth. We've also made modifications to this overall study area to include the Washburn Tunnel. You know, again, I mentioned in our I-10 discussion that federal is appearing, really kind of looking at the data, appearing that, Federal Road is a key point that we need to really start looking at. So with the 225 study, we've expanded it to look at the Washburn Tunnel to see if there's maybe some improved connectivity down to Red Bluff and the Washburn Tunnel from 225 that we need to look at. And then of course, on the east side there at 146, we've expanded the study limits to include that Barber's Cut area so that we can ensure that freight traffic coming from either 146 or 225 can make it down to the container terminals there at Barber's Cut and Bayport. 225 just really and truly got kicked off last year. So we are a little bit further behind compared to the I-10 East Pell. At this point in time, we're really just kind of in the data collection phase. So let me go through some of the data that we've collected so far. Here's a graphic of the traffic counts along 225 itself. The overall volumes on 225 are probably about 10 to 20% lower than I-10 if you just wanted to compare the two. But I will draw your attention to the truck percentages. That's shown here kind of in parentheses off to the side. If you recall, the I-10 East corridor had somewhere on the order of 14 or so % trucks. Well, if you look at the 225 corridor, it is higher. We're looking at 18 and even 20% trucks along 225. Looking at the crash data, this is a heat map showing crashes relative to the traffic volumes that are going through those particular areas along 225. And, again, for some reason, Federal Road really stands out again, where Federal Road is a bit of a hotspot where 530 crashes are happening compared to the number of traffic that's going through that particular interchange. So this is alluding to the fact that there's something going on there at Federal Road that really needs to be investigated and improved. Moving on to origin destinations. I wouldn't really dwell too much on this particular graphic, but it is showing that traffic that's coming in and out of the 225 corridor is mainly going towards I-10. That's the real big takeaway here. You can really see it in terms of the truck percentages, that there's a very kind of a symbiotic relationship here between 225 and I-10. So next steps for the 225 corridor. Again, we're kind of in that early process, the phase 1 portion of the study where we're collecting data. We're going to be holding a public meeting and some additional stakeholder meetings with everyone to gather input on what the generalized public feels are the needs of the 225 corridor. With that valuable input, we'll then be able to move on later on to developing alternatives that satisfy those needs. So we are trying our best to compress the 225 Pell study to more or less coincide with the work that's going on I-10. So we are kind of looking at 2022 timeframe to have kind of a set of viable alternatives to move forward into the generalized NEPA process. So that's the end of my presentation there, Chad. I guess if anyone has any questions, I'll be happy to take them.
Appreciate that, Patrick. Questions out there for Patrick? That's a lot of work they're working on right now. And I know, Patrick, I may have requested in the chat, but can you shoot me a copy of this presentation to get out to everybody?
Absolutely.
Good. I'll shoot it to the whole crew as soon as I get that. And we've got the other presentations that we'll see here in a minute as well. Bruce, did you have a question?
Yeah, this is just information. I know James and I talked a couple months ago about bridge study, ship study for the 610 bridge. We kicked off that study about 2.5, 3 weeks ago. We probably have about 5 weeks left on it. So when we finish that, we'll certainly pass that on to you, Patrick and James, just to kind of inform your PEL for the bridge. And what we're really doing is looking at, sea level rise and past accidents that involve the bridge and ship design of the future, and looking at the impact of the height of the bridge on all of those things.
Fantastic. And as we've discussed previously, because there's that, issue with the Sidney Sherman Bridge being in so close of proximity to the 225/610 interchange, it really makes a difference on, what that vertical clearance need is. So that's really why we've expanded the study area to include that entirety of the 610 area. And really, if you look closely, it's essentially going off towards the Gulf Gate interchange with 45 as well. So, vertical clearance and the overall height in that general vicinity is going to be really key. So I look forward to that, Bruce, and continuing those conversations with you and the port.
Yep, thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Bruce, and anybody on the call. If you're not a stakeholder, or if you'd like to be a stakeholder participating in that Pell study, or just provide us comments, it's an ongoing process, and that's what we're out here for. We want to get the comments. We want to understand, what the needs are and how we can address those. The gentleman before had mentioned something about, if there's height concerns along the existing I-10 corridor, we need to note those so they are reflected in the overall record, and we can look at accommodating those in the future. So, thank you all.
Thanks, James. And I think I'm going to probably speak on behalf of a lot of folks in this moment, but when you guys get that final design and for 146 widening kind of north of Seabrook to LaPorte, if you guys could come back and just talk about the TCP and what that's going to look like to really, make sure everybody's on the same page, I think that'll help out a lot.
Okay, we will do that. Yeah, we have our plans. Our normal requirement is having the plans ready 5 months prior to letting. So we'll look at doing that. Make sure we can brief y'all on that. So, okay.
Thanks.
Very good. Very good. Any other questions? You can also put some questions in the comments, and we'll make sure that we get Patrick and the folks get a chance to answer those as well. All right. Hearing none, Patrick, if you will there you go. We'll move on to number 3 on the agenda. I know Milton is here. Milton, I've got those slides ready to, here we go, right here. There we go. Nope, that's the wrong one. Hold on. Let me go back and pick the right one.
Chad, do you want me to
Let me stop.
so I can control?
I've given you capability to do that. If you want to, I can do it, or you can do it. Either one.
All right. You let me know if y'all can see my screen.
Yeah, we can see it.
Perfect.
Perfect. You got it, Milton. That's looking good. If you'll blow it up to the whole screen, that'll help a little bit. There you go. Perfect.
All right. Well, good afternoon, and thank you all for inviting us this meeting. As most of you know, freight mobility and port is key priority for Commissioner Garcia. And one of the things we are really focused here is to improve the multimodal transportation system for effective maneuvering of the freight and improving the safety of our citizens. So I'll go over some of the key projects we have and our CIP program today. Moving on, one of the key initiatives that we took is to increase our capital improvement project delivery from precinct 2. The average amount of project CIP project that is delivered by precinct was about 35 million before we took office. And then the goal is by end of this fiscal year, 2021, 2022, we want to reach the 100 million per year CIP project delivery. And again, we do a lot of variety of projects. A good majority of them is road and drainage. So I would say about 80% or more. With that said, here's a quick breakdown of our project. At this time, we have about 103 active CIP projects ongoing. Significant amount of investment in road and drainage. As you can see, over $100 million is allocated for the drainage improvement. And many of these projects actually are in the port region or in this general area. And I'll go little details in my next slides. Moving on, I was going to go on and really talk about some of the key projects that we have in this port region. I know one of the projects that everybody here in this room is probably interested is the Fairmont Parkway study. This is the study. The project limit on this one is from Red Bluff Road to 146 South. We have completed the feasibility study. Actually, we're about to have the final presentation in next week on this one. So we haven't secured the funding on how we're going to fund this project yet. Haven't had the discussion, but at least now we have a PER level study completed for this one. The next project I want to talk about a little bit is the Sheldon Road at Market Street intersection. This was actually a Rider 38 application. Initially, we submitted all the way from Sheldon Road to Carpenter's Bayou. Then we had to truncate the application due to the funding limitation on the Rider grant this year. But this project, we have the AFA that's currently under review by our legal department. We plan to start the study in about next 3 months, retain someone to start the study at that intersection. We got a couple of sidewalk projects that's ongoing in this area. Garth Road, this one is near Victoria Walker Elementary. And this is at Baytown. There's a little project down there. We're trying to improve the walkability around the school. Another one important project probably for this group would be the Red Bluff Sidewalk project. And this one is from Spencer Highway to Fairmont Parkway, and we are about to start construction. It's probably about 2-3 weeks away before we break ground on this one. Got a signal project at a Space Center at Sunrise Lake Drive. That's almost complete, 95% complete at this time. Thinking about in a month or so we'll be done down there as well. I'll add we got a Almond Bayou, that's a trail project along the bayou that should connect Partnership Park with the Bliss Meadows Park. That's also, we finished the study. Right now we submitted a grant to Texas Parks and Wildlife. The grant application we'll know in about next few months to see if we're gonna get funded or not. If not, we plan to build it using our own fund. That's there. And then you see several key important projects that is actually with partnership with TxDOT. That's ongoing construction. TxDOT is leading the construction part of it. One of them, again, the Clinton Drive project, that's with reconstructing the 4-lane road from Port of Houston, Gate 8 to 610. Service Road, that's 75% complete. Estimated completion date is second quarter of 2021. The next one you have is Federal Road grid separation. That one is also 90% complete. That's over the PTRA railroad crossing that we are working on. And then we have the Red Bluff Road Bridge at Big Island Slough. That's an off-system bridge that needed upgrade. We're 30% complete in terms of construction. And finally, I have the Red Bluff Road evacuation route project that goes from Kirby to Highway 146. Again, we are hoping for a second quarter completion of 2021. At this point, construction is 50% complete. With that said, I'll pause here. Do y'all have any question?
Milton,
Hey,
oh, go ahead, Bruce, because
Yeah.
you may be asking the same thing I am.
Sorry. So, and this is actually a question for both TxDOT and Milton. So I know, one of the choke points that we have is Red Bluff Intersection, Old State Highway 46 up to Port Road. And I know you and I have talked about your guys' portion of that. Are you guys still taking a look at widening Old 146?
So from the precinct 2's part, Bruce, we're gonna initiate a study. We haven't started the process yet, but that's been the discussion we're having with our team at this time.
Okay. And I guess either Patrick or James, I know I've talked to Eliza a couple times, and you guys had been looking at maybe trying to accelerate the widening of your portion of that, really right at the intersection of Red Bluff and the frontage road for Old 146. Have you guys, I know you guys were working maybe on a design for that. Has that moved anywhere yet?
Yeah, Bruce, we're still working on that. And I think, we've got some issues right now, and I know you guys are sharing the pain with UP, with the rail extension that's going on in that area. And so we're working with the county on exactly how to time that and get that project that's under construction finished, wrapped up, and then we're going to come back with that abutting widening project. You're right.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Good deal. Thanks, Bruce. And Milton, again, thank you very much. Let me bring you back to your first project, the Fairmont Parkway project. You had mentioned the feasibility is now complete. You're kind of waiting on funding, or y'all haven't really approved the funding for that. Can you just touch briefly on the scope of that that Fairmont Parkway project, and then estimated funding amount and the timing of that? What's the next step in the future of that Fairmont Parkway expansion? From what I guess Red Bluff to 146 section, what does that look like moving forward?
So again, the scope is to widen the roadway from, I think we have 4 lane now, to make it 6 lane from Red Bluff Road to Highway 146. So that's the scope. In terms of funding situation, again, we are looking for potential partnership. This one probably will submit a TIP application as well with SGSC. Again, this is going to be a large project for precinct to do it by us. So timeline-wise, Chad, I wouldn't be able to give you an exact timeline in terms of when we'll be able to secure funding for the whole project. We may have to do it in phases.
Well, and if you need, support, pleading our case to HJC as far as a funding partner, then we definitely want to be there for that. I know this region's, keenly interested in that expansion project moving forward. So yeah, we want to definitely work with you to try and help offset some of the funding that project's going to take. So just loop us in and let us help. Okay.
Absolutely. Okay.
Excellent. Any other questions for Milton?
If it's okay, I have a quick question, if it's all right, mostly about the sidewalk and the Armand Bay Bayou trail study. Is it looking to make that trail from the Bayou up Red Bluff Road going towards Fairmont Parkway, make that accessible? Right now it's a soft surface trail, correct?
Yes.
Is the idea to make that accessible with some kind of hardened surface, or what's the scope of that project?
So the scope is to build a 8-foot trail along Armand Bayou and to connect Bliss Meadow Park with the partnership park.
Meadow with, which one, I'm sorry?
Partnership Park.
Partnership. And you said there was a sidewalk project as well, but that seems pretty obvious. There's a sidewalk that kind of ends along Red Bluff Road that there's a
Yeah,
huge
we're also looking into the connectivity with different roadways and whatnot. So it's not just the trail along the bayou. We're also looking at the peripheral connectivity as well.
Perfect.
All right, if there's no more question, I'm going to move on real quick to kind of give us a little bit of highlight of the drainage project that we have planned for this precinct. One of the big program we have is the subdivision drainage projects that we are building. We have 24 projects that's ongoing, and as you can see on the screen, there are a significant amount of project in the Bay Area or the Port area that is ongoing. Majority of them will be constructed within the next 2 years. From the Harris County Flood Control Bond side, currently there's 20 projects that's ongoing. This is in entire precinct 2. And that's valued at 182 million, either located in precinct 2 or partially located in precinct 2. And also similarly, we have 197 projects that's valued at $1 billion in different phases at this time with flood control. Will be built within the next 7 years. So that's the game plan so far. Of course, a lot of these depend on the federal grant application that we have submitted. So we are hoping all will come good. This is a quick breakdown for the projects we have. Again, we have 197 projects that is either partially or entirely located in precinct 2. Again, significant amount of these projects are in Bay Area and Port region. So with that, I'll close and open for any question y'all may have.
Just a second. Anybody chime in if they've got questions for Milton? All right, hearing none. I think Milton will say thank you again. You may hang on and just keep an eye on the chat. I know there's some questions kind of popping in and out of the chat there. If you'll unshare your screen, we'll move on. And Peter, with Harris County Toll Road Authority, Peter, if you're ready, we'll tee you up and let you give us a quick update.
Chad, Glenn,
Yep.
others. Yeah, thank you for letting us be a part of this afternoon. I want to start off by saying that socially distanced, of course, in our large conference room, I'm joined by John Tyler, our agency's Director of Engineering, and Matt Kiner, our Director of Maintenance and Construction. They're going to also briefly touch on some updates for the Ship Channel Bridge project. I think most people are aware of the background of the project. It's one of the largest projects that the county's ever undertaken. We all view it as a critical piece of infrastructure for the region. The merits for why the project was initiated now almost a decade ago was primarily driven by safety. That the existing bridge out there lacks safety shoulders and the support columns sit in the water. Those are two potential problems. One problem we deal with almost on a daily basis being the lack of safety shoulders. When this project will be complete, we'll have 2 twin span bridges over the ship channel, greatly increasing the capacity for car and truck traffic in that region. And it'll be a much safer facility to use. But I also think that most people on this call today are aware of the challenges that the county's faced with this project. In 2020, we had to pause construction. The construction that is across the ship channel has been in a pause state since January of 2020. We had to bring on a new engineer of record in the middle of 2020. And our staff has been working through those challenges. I think probably people on this call would like to know about timeframes. Schedules mean something. They mean something to us, and I think they mean something to everybody else. So I'm going to ask John real quick to give an update on the engineering time schedule, and then Matt's going to give an update on the construction. time schedule. Thank you.
Very good. Thanks, Peter. As for the design, you can imagine that difficulty in shifting from one engineer of record to another on a project of this magnitude. And we're moving forward through that process. COE is our new engineer of record and has been on board in their final design state since the end of last year. And they are working towards completing their design at the end of this summer. Along with that, we have hired a firm named Corbin to do a verification / checking of COE's design at the same time they're going through it. And we expect that to be finished at, not to delay the final design any at all. So like I said, our goal is to have the design complete no later than the end of summer.
Thank you, John. Matt?
Yeah, as far as construction, we're continuing construction on the south approach. That can still be seen out there today. Construction on the main span is contingent upon the design being completed, but the construction team is committed to reviewing, potentially investigating any options that we have as soon as we get the design to get back to work and get the project built.
Thank you, Matt. So, we're all aware that the county's faced a real challenge with this critical project. But I think that the challenge that we're facing, we're working through it as best as we can. And we realize that time does matter, but safety does matter too. And that's the thing that is most critical to us is having a design that's a safe product that's going to be used out there for probably the next century. That's what they're designing to, is a product that's going to be put out there to last at least 100 years. And so I'd anticipate the next time that this group gets together, if we're asked, we'll provide an update that hopefully is even more specific and also has some better news as to when we're going to be fully restarted with construction. Thank you.
Sounds good. And y'all may have said this, that you were breaking up just a little bit on my computer. I don't know how it was for everybody else. Were you able to, or can you at this point in time, give us a two different dates, first bridge completion and maybe second bridge estimated completion, given obviously some of the halting that's gone on? Did I miss that, or did that not get put out there?
Yeah, we continue to work through the scheduling with the engineer. The latest update that we had for Commissioner's Court, it looks like that we would have full completion of the project in late 2026, early 2027. That's a ways from now. So I'd anticipate again in future meetings that we'd have more specific updates, but that's the schedule today. But Chad, I hesitate to say when one of those spans would be open, waiting for the second span to be completed. I think you need to wait on our agency to give a more complete update once that engineering design is completed.
Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. Any other questions for Peter or the group from Hector?
Chad, this is Milton Romani from Precinct 2. Again, I want to take an opportunity to thank Peter and his staff. Peter was instrumental to navigate through the challenge we have had. Commissioner Garcia has directed Toll Road to build this project as fast as possible, ensuring the safety of the bridge that is gonna be there for years after we live in this world. So Peter and his team was really instrumental making sure the safety of the bridge and going through the new design and everything. Thank you, Peter.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we have to build it safe. Everybody understands that. You know, that's job one. So we understand. Obviously, we wish it was done now, but you know, it needs to be safe when it's complete, and everybody needs to trust that bridge for, like you say, 50, 100 years from now. So, all right, appreciate it, Peter. All right, let's move on. Mike, I can pull up your presentation real quick. Oh, you've already got it. Was that me? Okay, here. Let me pull it up real quick. Right here, there it is. And share. There we go. All right.
All right, fantastic.
Is everybody seeing that? Okay, good deal.
Yeah, and I don't know if you want to hit Control L to go full screen, or
Yeah, let me see that. Yeah, I was wondering how to do that.
Or is
So
it a
let me see
Mac?
if I can do that. No, it's HP. It's just, you know, between that and Zoom, let me see here. Let me try one more time. There we go. Look at there. All right.
did it work?
Yep. Did it work for y'all?
I think we can see it. I don't know about everybody else on the call. I gotta hand it to the other folks who shared their screens. I can oh, there it goes. Okay, it's working now. I can hardly walk and chew gum at the same time. So Chad, thanks for running through the slides on this. Good afternoon, everyone. I think I know a bunch of people on this call. You know, we got projects going on in the same area. I'm in the Southeast Harris County area, so a lot of you aren't unfamiliar. First, I'd like to thank Chad Burke for the invitation. This is kind of a nice forum. I don't know if you guys meet routinely, but I'd like to sit in on these any future events. And I'd also like to thank everyone else for the opportunity in organizing all this. I'm Mike Burns. I'm a principal planner with the Regional Planning Division of HGAC, and I'm the project manager of the Southeast Harris County Subregional Study. I'll also know that although I was born in Houston, I spent 20 years outside of the state of Texas, and I moved back in March of 2020. So I moved here right in the middle of COVID, so I still feel like I'm still very new here to the area. But like I said, I've met a lot of people and I've met a lot of you. So and just let you know that Michael Feeney of Kinley Horn and Associates is also on this call, and he can help address questions that I just can't help with at the end of this presentation. And I'll also note that the study is funded by TxDOT and HGAC, and there's coordination with TxDOT. You already heard the presentation from Patrick on the 225 PEL, and we're continuing coordination to ensure that those efforts are in sync. Next slide, please, Chad. The steering committee for this study, which Chad is a part of, so is Milton, by the way, who just presented. The steering committee is going to help guide the study effort. The committee is composed of representatives of industry and ports, municipalities, county agencies within the study area. The initial meetings of that group started in November, and there was another meeting in January to finalize goals and focus areas and capture opportunities and obstacles foreseen by members. Next, please. The study should take about 18 months from the initial kickoff meeting, which was this past October 1st, to the final report, which should be ready in early 2022. There are, and by the way, that parallels pretty closely with the 225 PEL for those interested. And just like those PELs, there's two phases to the studies, an initial data sharing and public outreach phase, and then a project development phase, which will conclude with preferred alternatives and an implementation strategy developed in coordination with the public and steering committee members. Next, please. As the name suggests, the study is in the southeast portion of Harris County and includes portions of the cities of Houston, South Houston, Pasadena, Deer Park, and LaPorte. During this phase one of the study, there has been coordination with the steering committee members to finalize vision and measurable goals. The vision, which you'll see there on the right-hand side, is to recommend improvements to address any identified mobility, area development, economic policy needs in a manner that aligns with HGAC's goals for, and I'll note that the same goal areas are the same for this study, goals for mobility, safety, economic competitiveness, conditions of facilities, and natural and cultural resources. Next, please. The goals, the safety goal aligns with Harris County's and City of Houston's Vision Zero policy to improve areas with existing trends of high injury and fatalities to help prevent those in the future. Mobility success will be achieved by using context-appropriate complete streets principles to accommodate all users of the transportation system and to increase efficiency and reliability at major intersections and along major roadways. To help ensure economic success for the area, recommendations for the priority network would improve facilities' ability to accommodate choices other than driving alone, and improving reliability along the regional freight network. Next, please. Maintenance goals are to help achieve a state of good repair and resiliency of assets. And goals to protect resources would improve air quality by reducing emissions and avoid the need for mitigation measures for environmental impacts. These goals and metrics will be used when evaluating prioritizing transportation improvements within the study area. Next, please. Based on available data on road classification, congestion, safety conditions of major roadways, the consulting team has mapped a priority network. These areas will be the focus of additional analysis and development of alternatives for improving traffic flow, providing mode choice, and reducing the risk that contributes to crashes and serious injuries. As this map suggests, there's a lot of overlay of high crash locations and highly congested locations. These are primarily along major roadways such as Shaver Street, Red Bluff Road, and the east-west corridors of Spencer Highway and Fairmont Parkway. Next, please. As we continue through this phase 1 of the study, the vision and measurable goals and the priority network are pretty well enough developed. The near-term efforts are focused on a public engagement tool that will be rolled out by the end of this month, February, to capture additional early input on existing conditions. A formal public meeting and commenting period will be notified and advertised in the month of March. And you all should know that we're anticipating a public meeting on March 25th for this study. Following those efforts, the more interesting phase of project development and evaluation will start in early this summer and extend through the end of the year and into early next year. The same outreach, coordination, and use of public engagement tools will result in preferred recommendations that may ultimately live in local community capital plans and also in the region's long-range transportation plan to potentially use federal and state funding for implementation. Next, please. For more information on this project, please visit the project website shown here, or you can just simply Google the Southeast Harris Subregional Study to access the study material, a data dashboard of area conditions, and to actually watch the steering committee meetings to see exactly what that group's up to. If you'd like to reach out to me directly or reach out to the manager of all subregional studies, Ali Isbell, please feel free to send us an email. And again, thanks again for the opportunity to present this information. I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, any questions for Peter? Mike, sorry. All right, well, we will definitely, Mike, include you guys in future meetings. And then I'm sure as we go through kind of the public comment and feedback portion of that study, we'll push that out to this committee as much as we can and try and help support the feedback and data gathering for this project. We really appreciate it.
No, I appreciate this. Thank you.
All right, moving on. I know we've gone over our time a little bit, but I think we've just got some important things to cover. I want to turn it over to Bruce real quick. Bruce, you want to give us a quick port road update and then anything else kind of port or freight related that you wanted to touch on before we get out of here?
Yeah, no, I'll make it quick. And if you want, I can't share because I can't use my computer because I have a problem. with the internet right now. But if you just want to pull up a map that shows Port Road.
Yeah, I can do that.
So we started the Port Road project on Monday, and the projects last about 2 years. So this project is widening Port Road and from the flyover headed eastbound to the bridge just before you get to the entry gate. And then it's going to widen Port Road outbound from the exit gate to the flyover headed north on State Highway 146. And then we're making some drainage improvements as well along Port Road, across under Port Road from our property that's kind of on the corner of Old State Highway 146 and Port Road on the south side. And then as well, we kicked off a study of traffic study on Port Road to really look at Port Road and the intersections and connectivity as it relates to our expansion of Port Road and really the safe movement of cars up and down Port Road. And if you can go to the satellite view, Chad, and then zoom in kind of where the bridge is closer to, yeah, right about there. If you can just zoom in on that. So, you know, here's right by Chad's cursor there. Just to the left is the road that we built not so long ago. Just keep going to your left a little bit, Chad. Your other left, the north-south road. Right there.
Right.
No, the other one on the south side.
This one right here.
Yeah. So we built that not so long ago. And we're really looking at, you know, the trucks that are coming up, going to come up and down that road as we kind of develop that area. And one of the things that we looked at was really the movement of cars along Port Road, the movement of cars off of this asset. So if you want to zoom back out a little bit, there you go. So one of the things that we did is looked at this intersection beneath of the bridge. And what we're designing, and we're about 95% of the way with design, is building 2 lanes underneath of that bridge to U-turn. So if you want to zoom back in by that bridge a little bit, Chad.
Right here.
By the bridge, yeah. Let me see. Yeah.
Am I on the right spot? Isn't that the overpass, the bridge you're talking about?
Yeah. So we want to try and build 2 lanes that are going to U-turn and head back west underneath of that bridge. Already talked to Exxon because the Exxon pipeline corridor is right there. We really want to make a safe place for POVs to U-turn. So we're about 95% of the way complete on design of that. And hopefully when we finish completion of the design, we'll go right into construction of that U-turn. So that'll give us a safe place for cars to U-turn and not have to try and cut across a median coming out of one of the chemical facilities on the south side. So,
yeah,
you know, that I think that
allows all these folks to come out, take the right, U-turn, instead of trying to cut across all of those, that traffic moving in and out, safely U-turn, head back out to 146.
Yep. So, so those are the 2 big things. So we're about 95% complete on that design. We're just finishing up, and Port Road kicked off just this last Monday, a few days ago. And that project is going to be about 2 years schedule. It may finish sooner, but it's scheduled for 2 years and kicked off just this past Monday. And that's really the big things that are going on right now. I know TxDOT talked about the intersection improvements at Barbers Cut Boulevard. We talked about the 610 bridge and the Beltway. So, and the PELs for 225 and everything. I think, you know, the next big thing, especially for this area, is old 146, I know, and the Red Bluff intersection.
Right here.
Because
Yeah.
kind of the next area that we really need to improve in this area. And I know TxDOT didn't specifically talk about it, but the intersection and the connectivity to Barbers Cut container terminal, old State Highway 146 and Barbers Cut Boulevard, that connectivity is actually inside of the PEL for 225. So we are working with TxDOT to really look at how can we improve the connectivity between 146, 225, and Barbers Cut Boulevard. As everybody knows, every truck that comes into and out of that container terminal hits a stoplight on the way in and on the way out. So we're really looking at trying to improve that connectivity at that intersection. So those are, you know, the big things that we're really working on with the county and TxDOT and the projects that we're working on.
Well, congratulations on finally kicking off the construction phase of Port Road. I know that's y'all been working on that for a while. I know you've said in the past, I mean, you've probably got, I mean, what's the current truck count there? It was about 6,000 a day last time I heard you quote that number. Is still probably about that given the last year we had, but that's only going to continue to grow, right?
Yeah, and you know, January of 2019 was a record month, and January of 2020 was a record month. January of 2021 was 10.5% over January of 2020. Wow. Even with bid and even with the low oil prices, we're 10.5% over last January of last year. So we need these improvements. You know, the container traffic at Barbers Cut is still increasing as you know, it's a good thing that we're looking at these PELs and the widening of these roads, because, you know, the freight infrastructure is critical to the success of moving containers in and out of this region, along with everything else. But we're on our way.
Very good, very good. And you know, I just want to commend to everybody on here, you know, the Economic Alliance Committee, our partners at TxDOT, at the county, at HECTRA, HGAC. There's just been a lot of headway. Glenn and Bob's leadership and Bruce's leadership. You know, there's been a lot of headway made in the last 3, 4, 5 years that we've been working on this, and we're starting to see the fruits of all of that work play out now in construction. And I know it's painful to go through that, but you gotta do that to get to where we really need to be. So really, from the Alliance and from my seat, just we really want to say thank you to everybody listening to and working for this region. I don't want to extend the meeting too much longer, but I do want to give anybody out there a chance to make any quick comments or questions from all of our presentations that we've had today. And just speak up, unmute yourself and throw that out there if you've got any questions or comments. And then I'll end by throwing it back to Glenn, our co-chair, to wrap us up real quickly. So any comments or unanswered questions that we want to do, y'all feel free to shoot me those via email as well, and I'll send out all the presentations. But I'll throw it back out to the group one more time.
Yeah, and just to echo real quick what Chad just said, I remember when we sat down and we came up with the project list a few years ago.
Yeah.
And, you know, it was a little bit like herding cats, but we got it done. And I know Mayor Royal and others really helped shepherd that through the county judge. And, you know, I think it's a testament to our success when TxDOT throws up a project list and it's the list that we created. So,
Absolutely. That's one of the main reasons I want to see Patrick's presentation, the slide presentation, so I could use that slide.
But and just an example of how successful it's been, and I'll acknowledge Quincy, who has moved on to Austin, but State Highway 330 connectivity was years away when we started this. Yeah. And that project last fall. So just putting this list together has really moved a lot of these projects from concept and drawing board to really final design or being designed and shovels being turned. So I just want to acknowledge the county and TxDOT and Hectra and the Economic Alliance and Glenn, you too, and everybody else, because this has really been a success story in how to get stuff done.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Bruce.
Glenn, with that, we'll turn it over to you. I don't think we have any questions out there, but any final comments, Glenn, before we let everybody go?
No, just the caliber of the folks on these calls and this panel that we've brought together just blows me away every time we sit down. It's an extraordinary group, and all I was trying to do is improve my commute from Seabrook to downtown. I was a one-issue guy, and look what all's happened here. So thanks everyone for everything you do, and we look forward to our next meeting. Please do continue to bring the ideas, the thoughts, your needs, both top down and bottoms up, and we'll come together and let us cheerlead it for you. That's what we're here for. So I appreciate you all. Thank you.
Outstanding. Appreciate it, everybody. We'll get back together in probably 3 or 4 months, maybe early summer, and we'll get an update at that point. But thank you guys, and I will email out those presentations, if not today, probably tomorrow. So look for that email. Thank you all again.
Thank you all.
Thank you.